Welcome, yogis. Thank you for joining me today. Today we are going to focus a lot on back bending, and we're going to use a lot of our props, so make sure you have a strap and a couple of blocks handy. Especially with back bending, please listen to your body and make sure that you don't overdo it. So if you need to modify, feel free, or if you need to take a break and find child's pose, that's always an option. We'll start in a supported hero's pose with the block underneath the hips, one hand over your heart, one hand over the belly button, feeling the breath expand and contract. If your knees feel good enough and you don't need that block, you can always jump right into full hero's pose. But I find the elevation helps me, especially in the initial breathing, find lots of length in my spine, find lots of room to expand the breath and use the full range of motion of the lungs. Continue to breathe. If you haven't already, you can start to incorporate that Ujjayi style breathing, making sure both the inhale and the exhales through the nose, and adding that slight constriction to the back of the throat. Go ahead and release the hands to the ground and inhale one hand up and over, stretching out your side, and then to the opposite side, feeling the breath expand the space in between the ribs. Coming back to center, inhale both hands to the sky. Flip the palms up, interlocking the fingers, and give yourself a little bit of a back bend, reaching the fingers behind, and then curling the spine and pushing the palms forward. Release, interlock the fingers behind your back, and start to draw the knuckles a little bit higher. Or for a slightly different sensation, draw the knuckles to the back and draw the sternum towards the sky. Release the hands, come back to a neutral spine, and then we'll take one hand to the opposite ear, gently drawing your ear towards your shoulder, stretching out the neck. And then to the other side, reaching with the fingertips of the free hand so that you extend not just the neck, but down the top of the shoulder. Release, come back to a neutral spine again, and you can put the block off to the side. We'll go ahead and find tabletop. Extend one leg behind you and really press the back of the knee towards the sky. After hero's posed with the hyperflexion in the knees, this should feel really good. You can give yourself a couple of ankle rolls. Switch sides whenever you're ready. Maybe you just want to open up the bottom of the feet, really pressing the toes in and stretching out the ball of the foot. Come back to tabletop and push back into child's pose. And you'll notice here I kept my toes tucked under for this particular version to try to stretch out the bottoms of my feet, stretch out my toes. But if you'd like to take traditional child's pose, that is perfectly fine. Come back to table, finding a neutral spine, and extend one leg behind, making sure that as you extend, you don't drop the spine. Keep the abs engaged. Opposite arm in front, and on an exhale, squeeze the knee and elbow together underneath. Inhale, find length. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale back to a flat back, maintaining your balance. One more time. Inhale back to flat. And then this time, bend the knee behind you, grab a hold of the foot or grab your strap if you need it for our first back bend into the middle and lower back. Gently release and drop the hand and the knee to the ground. Take another child's pose. Again, with the toes tucked under if that feels good, or if you want to focus on just lengthening the spine, you can keep the toes untucked. Push back up to table and we'll find our balance on the other side, kicking the opposite foot behind, opposite hand in front, and exhale, squeeze together. Take a few more inhales and exhales, extensions and contractions, warming up the belly, creating a little bit of heat in the body. One more time. And then again, bend the back foot, grab a hold of the ankle, push the foot into the hand and find that little back bend. One more breath. And gently release. Find flat first, and then drop the knees and the hands to the ground. Push back to child's pose again. Find lots of length, whether it's down the back or in the bottoms of the feet. And then we'll come back to table one more time. So find a nice, strong, flat back and pick up one foot again. But this time we're going to pick up the same hand so that hip rolls up, stacking on top of the bottom hip, floating the hand to the sky if you can. You can always kick the back foot out to use as a tripod to help with balance. Really, really use your core here. The more you use your core, the easier it will be to balance. Try grabbing a hold of the floating foot again, creating that back bend. And then gently release. Try to maintain your balance. And then gently come back to all fours, finding table, tucking the toes, and pushing back to child's pose once again. Take a full cycle of breath here, feeling the back ribs expand. And then come up to table, find your balance on the other side. You can double up your mat like I am for extra cushion on your knee. Picking up the opposite foot, roll the hips so that they're stacked, squeeze with the core and the obliques, and try to pick up your floating hand. If you feel stable here, again, bend the floating leg, grab a hold of the ankle, and create a bit of a back bend. For those of you who don't feel stable, focus just on creating the core strength. You can add the back bend at a later time. Come back to center, and one more time, tuck the toes under and push back to child's pose. Take an inhale, and on your exhale, we'll push the hips towards the sky, finding our first down dog. Try to keep the same length that you felt in child's pose, that same length from your fingertips out through the tailbone in your down dog. So if that means you need to keep the knees bent, that's fine. If you like to walk out the heels in your first down dog, go ahead and take a few breaths to do so. Or you can keep with that theme of stretching out the bottom of the feet by pushing up onto the toes as high as you can and then gently rocking back, heels towards the ground. On your next exhale, gently step forward, forward fold, inhale, flat back, and then release the head, forward fold. Inhale, rise up with a flat back. Exhale, hands to your heart center. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, go ahead and hook the thumbs and reach over to one side, half moon, and then center. Other side, making sure the top shoulder does not roll forward. Center, and then tiny back bend, taking those thumbs behind you. Come back to center, release the thumbs, and dive forward, forward fold. This time in our forward fold, let's go ahead and wrap our elbows with our hands. Maybe give yourself a little bit of a bend in the knee. Rock side to side, or just stay steady, lengthening the spine towards the ground. Release the hands and inhale, flat back. Exhale, palms come back to the ground. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, squeeze the belly button to the spine as you draw the hands to your heart. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, let's take that side bend. Back to center. And then to the other side. Back to center. Hips push forward. Gaze comes behind you. Back to center. Release the hands and fold forward. Inhale. Exhale, release the head and the neck. Let the weight of the head hang heavy, lengthening the spine. Make sure that the neck is not holding any tension, so you shouldn't be looking at your toes, instead looking at the knees. Release the hands, inhale, flat back. Exhale, palms come to the ground. Forward fold, and then inhale, rise up. Exhale, prayer. Inhale. Exhale. Let's skip the side bends and fold forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale. We'll go ahead and gently step one foot back, coming into a high lunge, fingertips on the ground, shining the heart forward, and then gently release the back knee to the ground, coming up into a low lunge, hands towards the sky. Hook those thumbs again, and you're going to lean to the same side as your front leg. And that side bend will create space not only in the ribs, but down the hips as well. Come back to center, release the hands, square in front of your foot, and gently step back to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, let's take a cobra for our first back bend in our flow, and then exhale, push back to down dog. Inhale, same foot comes up. Exhale to the front of your mat. So you're in a high lunge again on the same side, and then gently step forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, palms to your heart. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lengthen through the crown of the head. Hands can come to the shins. And then on an exhale, we're going to step back with the opposite foot. Start with a high lunge. Try to create one long line of energy from the heel out through the crown of the head, and then soften the knee to the ground and rise up, low lunge. Hook the thumbs, and again leaning to the same side as your front leg. So you're creating more length in the hip flexor of the back leg. Back to center, and release the hands to the front of the mat. Gently step back to plank, and exhale, chaturanga. Softening the body to the ground and inhaling up to a slightly more intense cobra. Release your cobra and exhale, use the core to push back to down dog. Same side, inhale, the foot comes up. Exhale, step it through, pausing in high lunge. And then step together at the front of your mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, round, release, palms to the ground. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, find lots of length. Core is still strong in your tall mountain. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flatten the back. Try not to create a crease in the neck. And then let's step back to high lunge again. This time we'll keep the back knee off the ground and rise up into crescent pose. Active in the back foot, making sure you're not collapsing into the heel. And then release the hands behind you, interlock the fingers, and start to draw the knuckles down that back thigh. Continue to sink deep into the front leg, shining the sternum towards the sky, creating lots of openness in your heart. Release your hands and gently step back to plank. Exhaling, flowing through your vinyasa. You can come all the way up into up dog now if you'd prefer. Exhale, push back, down dog. Same side, pick up that foot. Bring the foot through so you're in high lunge on the same side. And then gently step together, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, rise up, reverse swan dive. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, find lots of length. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. And release, stepping back with the opposite foot. So find high lunge, there's no rush here. Create a nice solid foundation and then rise up to crescent pose. When you're ready, release the hands behind, opposite thumb on top, so your uncomfortable interlock, and then create that same back bend in crescent pose, making sure that as the knuckles reach behind you, you're still sinking deep into the front leg. Release the hands and bring them to the ground, square over the foot. Step back and flow through your vinyasa, making sure that if you are going to up dog, that you're keeping the knees off the ground. Push to down dog and inhale, one foot up. Same side, bring that foot through, high lunge on the same side. Long line of energy from heel to head, and then step together, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive, rise up, grow tall. Exhale, keep the length in the spine, supported by your abs. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. And release, gently stepping back, finding high lunge once again. Make sure you're not collapsing into the heart, and then rise up, crescent pose, exhaling the elbows back, cactus arms, and then bring the elbows forward, one elbow underneath the other, eagle arms, reaching the fingertips towards the sky, opening up the upper back. And then keep the arms wrapped and drop down, bringing the elbows on the inside of the knee. You can try to keep your balance by staying up on the ball of the back foot, or you can drop the heel down for warrior one legs. It's up to you. Rise back up, crescent pose, and then hands to the ground, inhale plank, and flow through your vinyasa. Making your way to down dog. Same side, inhale, heel towards the sky, hips square, exhale, bring the foot through, high lunge, and then gently step together. Inhale, flat back, exhale, release. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, lots of length as the hands sweep up, and then exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release, gently stepping back to the other side. High lunge, pausing here, and then rising up, crescent pose. Cactus the arms, squeeze the elbows behind, engage the upper back, and then bring the elbows forward, opposite elbow on top, reaching first towards the sky, opening up the upper back, and then bringing the elbows to the inside of the knee, again adjusting that back foot, bringing the foot flat to the ground if that helps you with your balance, or you can practice challenging your balance, keeping the toes tucked under. Rise back up, release the arms, crescent pose. And then on your exhale, hands come down to the ground, step back to plank, and exhale, flow through your vinyasa. Nice big heart opener in whatever back bend you choose. Exhaling, squeezing the abs to shift to down dog. Same side, foot floats up. Exhale, step it through, pausing in high lunge, and then stepping together. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Notice how the stretch in the back of the legs changes. Release, And then rise back up, squeezing with the glutes to lift. Back to your heart. Inhale, hands to the sky. And release, fold forward. Inhale, reach out through the crown of the head. Exhale, release. And then step back, high lunge once again. This time we are going to drop the back knee again, so add some extra cushion if you need it. Really focus on opening up the hip flexor first, maybe reaching the chest a little bit more through, and then on an exhale, shift the hips back, extend the front leg, coming into half splits. You can bring the hands on either side. You can prop them up on blocks and focus on a flat back, or you can reach the fingertips forward. Soften that front knee and bring both hands to the inside of the knee. We're going to make our way into lizard. Take at least a breath with your hands, palms on the ground. Notice how it feels in your hips, the glute of the front leg, and the hip flexor of the back leg. And if you feel good, then you can drop down to your elbows. Make it a little bit more intense. From here, rock the front foot to the outside edge of the foot. Let the knee drop open, sink a little bit deeper into the hips. And then if you have it in your practice, pick up the back foot, grabbing a hold of the outside of the foot or the ankle. And you can play with this. You can pull the heel closer to your hips for more of a quad stretch, or push the foot into the hands for more of a back bend. Either way, gently release, coming back to lizard pose, both elbows on the ground, knee squeezing in towards your shoulder, and then rise up to low lunge, exhaling back to your half splits again. Maybe noticing a little bit of difference in your range of motion in those half splits. Exhale, shift forward again, lift the back knee, and gently step back to plank. This time, if you'd like to challenge yourself, you can keep that foot lifted as you flow through your vinyasa, making your way to down dog. Picking up that same foot, so same side. Exhale, bring the foot through, high lunge, and then gently step together, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, round, release. Inhale, rise up, squeeze the glutes, abs are in tight, hands to your heart. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, reach to the crown of the head, neutral neck, release, and step back to high lunge on the opposite side now. Take a moment in high lunge, find that long, flat body, and then drop the back knee to the ground, shifting to low lunge. Take a deep breath. And on your next exhale, we're going to shift back to half splits again. It's up to you whether you'd like the support of your blocks under your hands, or if you'd like to really lean out over, bringing the forehead or the nose to the shin, keeping the length in the spine, either way. Bend that front knee again, both hands to the inside, taking a moment before you transition to the elbows if that is in your practice. I always like to take a breath in the easier variation before I move to something more challenging, just to check in and make sure my body's up for it today. Again, rocking the weight onto the outside edge of that front leg, dropping the knee out, and then maybe picking up the back foot and deciding again, do you want to focus on opening up the quad and the hip flexor, or do you want to push the foot into the hand and create a back bend? It's your choice. Just listen to your body and do what you need today. Come back to center, back to lizard, slowly making your way up and then shifting the hips back for another half splits just for a breath or two, checking in, noticing if it feels any different than the first time. And then shift forward again, tuck the toes of the back leg, step to plank or keep the foot lifted as you flow through your vinyasa. From down dog, inhale, same foot floats up. And then on your next exhale, bring the foot through, high lunge, same side. Noticing any changes to your body after going through those different stretches. Step together. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. And then inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release, and step back. High lunge again. From high lunge this time, we're going to walk that foot over to the opposite edge of the mat so that you can gently drop the knee to the ground and your shin is going to be really close to parallel with the front of the mat. Now, if this is too intense for you, either on your knee or your hip, you can walk the foot much closer to your hips, and that will make pigeon much more accessible to you. If you're ready, go ahead and fold forward out over that front leg. And if this is just not in your practice at all because of your knee, you can always flip over onto your back and do reclined pigeon instead. If you would like to start to work towards that back bend, rise back up, engage the upper back, bring the hands towards the sky, squeeze to try to keep yourself upright, and then release the hands to the ground, maybe fold forward again. This is completely option. You can stay folded forward the entire time, but if you'd like to start working towards King Cobra, we do have to start engaging the back. I don't quite have King Cobra in my practice, so I'm going to grab my strap right about now. If you are already prepared, you'll have a loop in your strap that you can hook around the back foot. I, of course, am not prepared. So whenever you're ready, pick up that back foot, and let's start by focusing first on the quad, pushing the heel towards the hip, maybe flipping your grip so that the elbow's towards the sky and you're pushing down on the knuckles of your toes. Gently release that, and if you'd like more, hook the strap around the foot and bring the strap overhead. Start to walk your hands down the strap. Make sure you're breathing. Make sure you're listening to your body. This is a very challenging pose, so if it's too much and you can't breathe through it, please back off. Gently release. Tuck the toes of that back foot, and we're going to do a little core work, tapping the knee to each elbow, and then extend back to plank and flow through a vinyasa. Exhale, back to down dog. Sticking with that same side, inhale, pick up the foot, hips are square, foot is flexed, heel to the sky, exhale, step it through, and then gently step together. Inhale, half lift, exhale, release, and then with a flat back, reverse swan dive, rise up, exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, grow tall, exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back, and then we'll step back to high lunge on the opposite side. Take a moment in high lunge, make sure that back leg is straight out behind you. Your heart is square towards the front of your mat, and then walk your foot to the opposite edge of the mat, gently lying the shin to the ground. Shin is close to parallel with the front of the mat, as feels good for you. Take a moment, make sure both hips are equidistant from the ground, and then start to fold forward if that feels good. You can always lay on a bolster or some blocks. And just breathe and ease the hip of the front leg open. It's quite an intense hip and glute opener. Now, if you'd like to start working towards the back bend, let's engage and fire up those muscles by rising up, reaching the fingertips towards the sky, drawing the shoulder blades down the back, and really using the strength of the core, the strength of the back to stay upright. Gently release, fold forward. Again, it's completely optional to stay here folded forward if that works for you. But if you are ready to add some more back bending, rise back up. Pick up that back foot and let's start with the quad stretch by flipping the grip, pushing the heel towards your hip, trying to square the chest towards the front of the mat. So you should also be getting a really great chest and heart opener here. You can always stay there as well, or if you'd like, grab your strap, hooking the loop around the foot and bringing the strap overhead. Elbows point towards the sky, and maybe walk the hands a little bit closer towards the heel. Gaze towards the sky, making sure you can breathe. If you can't breathe in this more advanced and challenging pose, then it's not doing you any benefits. So make sure you listen to your body. Release, and we're going to pick up that knee again and add those elbow taps, squeezing the abs because the abs support you in your back bends, and then stepping to plank and flowing through your vinyasa. So never forget that your abs are just as important as your back muscles when it comes to posture, spinal alignment. When you're ready, step that foot through, finding high lunge, and then step together, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Rise up, grow tall. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, hinge at the hips and fold forward, keeping the length in the spine even as you round. Inhale, find that length again. Exhale, round and step back, high lunge. Take a breath, find that long line of energy from the heel to the crown of the head, and then soften the back knee to the ground. We'll take a breath in low lunge and then exhale, half splits. Inhale, shift the knee forward and walk the toes a little bit farther forward. So we're going to shift back and forth, finding the deepest version of full splits that works for you and your body. Now I recommend connecting your exhale to whatever feels more challenging. So if your hamstrings tend to be tighter, exhale as you shift the hips back. If your hip flexor is tighter, exhale as you shift forward. Now, once you have found the most intense version of splits that works for you, I encourage you to find some support. So you'll see here, I am taking that block underneath my front leg for support and then engaging my upper back, reaching towards the sky, creating that same strength that we'll use for back bends. You can stay upright or you can fold forward like I'm doing. Again, it just depends on what your focus is for the day. If you're focusing on back bending, maybe you want to stay upright. Now, however you got into the splits, we're going to shift back and forth to slowly come out. So walking one foot in and then that back foot until you have enough space to pick up the front leg, stepping to plank and flowing through your vinyasa, keeping that foot floating through the vinyasa if that works for you. From down dog, pick up that same foot, same side, Inhale towards the sky, and then exhale, bring the foot all the way through. High lunge for a moment, and then exhale, step together, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, hands back to your heart. Inhale. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. And then round release to the ground. Gently stepping back. High lunge on the other side. Taking a moment in high lunge. And then dropping the back knee again. And then we're going to shift our weight back and forth just like we did on the other side. Starting with half splits. And as you shift back and forth, just creating a little bit more space between the feet. So you'll notice that the lunge or the half splits variation just feels a little bit different the farther that you get your feet apart. And I like the shifting back and forth because it gives you ample opportunity to really see where your limit is so that you can practice a version of the pose that is best for you. Once you find that intensity that works for you, again, you can add some extra support, whether it's blocks under the hands or a block under the leg. Maybe adding the challenge of bringing the hands towards the sky, engaging the back. And then I was feeling rather ambitious. So I'm going to fold forward first, refocus on lengthening the hamstrings of the front leg. And then this time when I come back up to upright, just like we did in King Cobra, I'm going to pick up that back leg. I wasn't feeling it on the first side, so I apologize if this happens to be your wrong side or more challenging side. But I felt like it was accessible on this side, so I went ahead and went for it. Again, gently release from the splits, walk the feet back in enough so that you can gently step back to plank, nice and slow, engaging the abs. Keep the foot floating if you'd like as you flow through your vinyasa. Exhaling, squeezing the abs, coming back to down dog. And then again, sticking with that same side, pick up the foot. Reach the heel towards the sky, big toes towards the ground. And then exhale, step it through, high lunge, inhaling, lengthening through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, round release. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to your heart. So we're going to take all of that back bending into our standing practice. So we will shift into dancer pose right now. If you don't have a strap, you can still do this without a strap. I'm working on the back bend, so I'm going to grab my strap. Let's start first with the more traditional dancer pose, the foot in the hand, pushing the foot into the hand, create the back bend first. And once you feel like you've hit your edge with the back bend, you can start to shift forward, bringing the chest parallel with the ground. Now, if you would like to add the intensity of the strap and bring the hands over the head, wrap the strap around the foot just like we did with King Pigeon. Bring the strap over the shoulder, both elbows towards the sky, hands start to walk down the strap. Slowly starting to push the foot into the hand, dropping the chest towards the ground, all while maintaining your balance. This one is not easy for me. Gently release. Come back to center. Take an inhale towards the sky. Exhale, fold forward. And then whatever you need to do to shake it out and feel good about that pose. Maybe walk one knee at a time in, or maybe shift all the way down to a chair pose, balanced on your toes. Whatever feels good on those legs. From a forward fold, let's go ahead and pick up that same foot we were just working with. And we're going to come up into half moon. So stack the hips as much as you can. Roll the shoulders so that they're stacked as much as you can as well. And then bend that floating foot, heel towards the glute. See if you can grab a hold of the ankle. You can always grab your strap here as well. And we're going to try to find that bind or that hold called Chapasana. So with regular half moon, I do always encourage a block because if you don't have the flexibility in your standing leg, it can be difficult to reach the ground. But when you're trying Chapasana, for me personally, it's really hard for me to stay balanced on a block. So just, try out a few different methods. See what works for you. Take note for next time. If you are in the bind, let's go ahead and gently release. Forward fold, and then inhale, flat back, rise all the way up. Hands back to your heart. And then let's find our balance on the other side. So starting with the modified version, staying completely upright, just focusing on opening up the quad and the hip flexor, and then start to push the foot into the hand, creating that back bend, maybe dropping the chest closer to parallel with the ground, focusing on your balance, making sure standing leg is strong and straight, but not hyperextending. So if you need to keep a little bit of a bend in that standing leg to make sure it doesn't hyperextend, that's perfectly fine. Now you can always stay where you are, or you can add your strap, bringing the strap over your shoulder, walking the hands down towards the foot, pushing the foot into the strap, creating the back bend. And you'll notice I have to have more of a bend in my knee here in the standing leg in order to create that space for the back bend. Whichever version you're in, go ahead and release. Come back to standing. Inhale the hands to the sky. Exhale, fold. And then we're going to find half moon on the other side. So pick up the opposite foot, reaching that foot behind, parallel with the ground. It doesn't have to be particularly high. Start to roll the hip open. And as the hip rolls open, shoulders roll open. You can keep the hand pointed towards the sky, or again, you can try for the bind. Grab a hold of the foot, push the foot into the hand, create that back bend. Gently release. Hand comes down to the ground, and then foot forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. And then walk the feet out towards the outside edges of your mat and round the spine towards the ground. Wrap the hands around the elbows. Maybe give yourself some gentle knee bends, just releasing from the back bend. And then walk the feet back together. Bend the knees go wide, heels and the balls of the feet are touching. Let the hips reach behind, hands in front, so you're balanced on your toes. And you're stretching out the inner thighs, but as you lean forward, you're really stretching out the lower back. Go ahead and come back up to upright, knees come together. And roll up so that you're sitting nice and tall on top of tucked toes. So this is very, very challenging. It's downright painful in my opinion, but it's an amazing stretch. And the more you do it, the more comfortable it will become. So if this is too much for you, grab a block, sit on a block, or sit on toes that are extended. Otherwise, focus on your breath. Gently release. And we're going to cross the legs behind And gently roll over the ankles, sitting back, extending the legs in front, finding staff pose, sitting up nice and tall, reaching out through the crown of the head. Abs are in tight. And then inhale, hands to the sky. Exhale, fold out over the toes. For this first fold, just relax the hands on either side of the legs. Continue to squeeze the belly button to the spine to support your back as you fold. And then gently round back up. Walk the feet in and come into reverse table, opening up the heart, pushing the hips high towards the sky. And then on an exhale, we're going to squeeze the abs in and shift the hips back, keeping the hips off the ground. Maybe picking up the feet if L-sit is in your practice. Otherwise, inhale back up to reverse table. Exhale, hips push back. And then this time we'll drop the hips to the ground again. We're going to take that same forward fold, but make it a little bit more intense. So maybe you grab a block and wrap the block around the bottom of the feet, or maybe it's your strap. I personally really like the block because it helps you keep your feet square to the front of your mat. Your ankles won't roll one direction or the other because they're flat up against the block. You could do the same thing with a wall if you don't have a block. One more breath. And then gently release the block to one side. Exhale, squeeze the abs as you roll back up to upright. Hands come slightly behind the hips, fingertips facing forward, and push the hips to the sky for reverse plank. Gently releasing, back down, floating the hips. And then one more time, push the hips to the sky, maybe push just a little bit higher. Engage the back, open up the front, and then release. And we're going to round down nice and slow, one vertebrae at a time. Make sure you have a block handy because we are going to do some supported bridges. If you don't have a block, you can use some books. Pick up the hips and bring the block underneath your tailbone on the medium setting so that you're in a very comfortable pose, a very comfortable bridge pose. If you would like some more intensity, you can extend the legs out. The straight legs will create much more opening and stretching in the hip flexors as you push the hips towards the sky. One more breath here. Listening to your back, making sure the block is in a position that is comfortable on your back. And then walk the feet back in, take the block, and we're going to take it up a setting. So the tallest setting, or the tallest setting that works for you, might be lower than that. Walk the feet in a little bit closer and see if you can wrap the hands around the ankles. Draw the shoulders away from the ears, maybe tuck the shoulder blades under. So now not only are we opening up the hips and the quads, but you should be feeling that stretch into the upper part of the body in your chest and your shoulder, opening the entire front of your body. Gently release your hold on the ankles and take the block out from under you. Not out, not quite yet. Take it to the lowest setting. And then we'll bring the feet towards the sky, straight up to the sky, reach through the heels. We're just doing a very gentle inversion. Now, if you are an inversion junkie and you want to take something much more challenging, please feel free. But I really want the focus just to be on getting the hips above the heart, getting the feet over the head, and letting the blood flow back to the brain, back to the top part of your heart, getting oxygen to those organs and parts of your body. Now, ideally, in our inversions, we'd like to stay for at least 60 seconds. probably a little bit longer than that, depending on the inversion and the level of support, but at least 60 seconds to really get that oxygenated blood to the top part of your body. Reverse the effects of gravity. Go ahead and release the feet to the ground. This time we will take the block all the way out from underneath us. Now, if you were in a more intense inversion, you'll definitely want to take fish pose. We'll all take fish pose because it's a great throat opener. But if you were in something like a shoulder stand, it's really important to take fish pose to counteract the shoulder stand. Gently release fish pose, and we'll pick up our feet for happy baby, rocking side to side, trying to keep the tailbone close to the ground, which will create more intensity in the backs of the legs, and then plug the shoulders into their sockets. That will create even more intensity for you. Release the soles of the feet together, wrap the hands around the soles of the feet, and let the weight of the feet pull into the hands, pulling the shoulders away from your ears, stretching the sides of your neck. And then gently release, bringing the knees together, and with your hands on your knees, guide your knees in some circles, massaging the lower back and the tailbone. And you'll start to notice right away, if you went a little too deep into some of those back bends, you might be feeling it in those knee circles. So just take note for next time. And then when you're ready, release the hands to your side, release your feet out, take up as much space as you want for Shavasana. We're going to be here for a couple of minutes because Shavasana is so very important. And just like I talked about holding inversions for a little bit longer period of time to give the oxygenated blood the opportunity to come up to, your head and your heart. The same idea applies to Shavasana, except now we want to find a neutral position for the body so that all of the compressing and lengthening that you did over the course of the practice, your body has the opportunity to just be at peace. The blood will flow naturally through your body, and you can take ample time and opportunity to recover and relax. So we'll be here for a few more breaths. Notice how the breath feels. Are you able to release your focus on the breath? Come back to natural breathing. Notice how the body feels. Do you feel at peace? Are you distracted? Do you struggle in Shavasana because you struggle with that peace and stillness? That's totally normal. Luckily, for those of you who struggle, it's time to slowly start waking up, wiggling fingers, wiggling toes, making your way to one side or rocking up to a seated position. And then hands come to your heart, fold forward in Namaste.